Part 4. You will hear an art history student giving a presentation about the Mexican artist Frida Kahlo and her famous home, La Casa Azul. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
For my presentation on a significant figure in the arts, I've decided to look at the Mexican painter, Frida Kahlo. She is instantly recognizable today, not just for her unibrow and traditional Mexican dress, but for her intense and vibrant self-portraits. While many people have seen her paintings on merchandise or in galleries, fewer people know the intimate details of the place where she was born, lived, and died. La Casa Azul, or the Blue House. First, a bit of background. Kahlo's life was marked by extreme physical suffering. You might assume her lifelong pain was solely due to the polio she contracted as a child, but the defining tragedy was actually a horrific bus accident when she was 18. This event left her in constant pain for the rest of her life and required dozens of surgeries. It was during her recovery in bed that she began to paint. Her work is often associated with surrealism, but she famously said she never painted dreams. She painted her own reality. The house itself was built by her father in 1904. Originally, the exterior was completely white, but Frida later painted the walls a brilliant cobalt blue, which she believed would ward off evil spirits. This colour has become the defining feature of the property. Inside, the house is a fascinating reflection of her personality and her marriage to the muralist Diego Rivera. Let's look at the kitchen first. In the 1930s and 40s, most wealthy Mexicans were installing modern gas appliances. However, Frida wanted to celebrate traditional Mexican culture, so she insisted on cooking on a traditional wood stove. The floor was painted a bright yellow to contrast with the blue pots and pans. It was a place full of noise and smells, where she cooked elaborate meals for her friends. The living areas display the couple's obsession with Mexico's past. The rooms are filled with folk art. Not paintings, as you might expect in an artist's home, but a vast collection of ancient stone statues. These pre-Hispanic figures are placed on shelves and in corners throughout the house, giving it the feeling of a temple rather than a domestic residence. Perhaps the most important room for her work was the studio, which was added later on the second floor. Unlike the darker rooms downstairs, this room is flooded with light from large windows. This was crucial for her painting. But the most significant object there is not her easel. Because she was often unable to move around, she used a large mirror mounted in the room to observe herself, which explains why there are so many self-portraits in her collection. Adjacent to the studio is her bedroom. This room is quite stark and holds the memory of her pain. Her bed is a four-poster style, and she had another mirror mounted on the canopy above it so she could paint while lying down. Her death mask and the urn containing her ashes are actually kept in this room today, resting on her bed. The house is built around a central courtyard or garden. This was Frida's sanctuary. It is a lush green space filled with tropical plants, cactus, and fountains. But it wasn't just for plants. She kept many pets there, including monkeys, dogs, and even a deer, which appear in many of her famous paintings. The Blue House was also a hub of intellectual and political activity. Frida and Diego were heavily involved in politics as active members of the Communist Party, and they hosted many international figures. Most famously, they provided refuge for the exiled Russian revolutionary Leon Trotsky, who stayed with them for 2 years. In 1958, 4 years after Frida's death, the house was turned into a museum, in accordance with her wishes. It remains exactly as she left it, with her brushes still in the studio and her clothes in the wardrobe, offering a powerful insight into the life of this extraordinary woman. Today, if you travel to Mexico, you can visit this remarkable property. It is located not in the bustling city centre, but in Coyoacán, a quiet suburb of Mexico City.
That is the end of part 4. You now have 1 minute to check your answers to part 4.